Got a nice hookup right here. It's a decent fish too. Oh, come on. Ooh, he's ferocious. Take me downstream a little bit. Oh, she's a pig. Yeah, she's nice. Holy cow. Oh, yeah. Holy. That's a fish. Holy cow. That's a big fish.
Hey everybody, it's Tim with Combat Fly Fishing. Thanks for joining me today. I'd promised to do a fly tying video on one of my Mysis patterns that is really easy to tie and very effective for me, but I thought maybe instead of just a quick tie video, I would do a little bit of history as far as how Mysis shrimp got into Colorado, because they are an invasive species. They're not indigenous to this area. And talk a little bit about some of my experiences on the river and how I fish them and why I tie this particular pattern the way I tie it. So I'll get into some of the history to start with, and at the end, I will do a quick fly tying tutorial for you. I hope you like it. I do appreciate all the support lately, the emails, the Instagram messages, things like that. Keep those coming. I do appreciate it. Try to spread the word. I'm going to try to jumpstart the channel a little bit this year and put more content out there and see where this thing can go. So I do appreciate all your support, and please like and subscribe, like this video and subscribe to my channel, and let's get into it. Now, a lot of the information that you're going to be given today is my opinion based off of my personal experiences on the river, talking to friends, things like that. But there is some information that I did get from the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. They put out a report in August of 2021 about the history and outcomes of the opossum shrimp, which are the Mysis shrimp, and the introductions to Colorado. So I've sourced that material just because I am going to be referring to a lot of that information as being factual information, and then kind of give you a background of where the Mysis shrimp came from. But if you wanted to read about it yourself, the source material is there in this screen. You can look it up pretty easily and get access to the full report. So in the 1950s, the Colorado Fish and Game wanted to introduce kokanee salmon, which are a cousin to the sockeye salmon, to many of the lakes and reservoirs in Colorado. The problem that they had was they didn't believe that there was enough food source in these reservoirs to sustain the life of the kokanee salmon. So they searched the nation for a solution, and they found the solution in the depths of the Great Lakes of the United States and also Canada, with a tiny little shrimp called an opossum shrimp, also known as a Mysis diluviana, which is now why it's referred to as a Mysis shrimp by most anglers. Mysis shrimp are high in amino acids, which are the building blocks for complete proteins. Colorado Fish and Game believe that if they transplanted Mysis shrimp into the Colorado lakes and reservoirs, then this high-protein shrimp would become the staple diet for the kokanee salmon that they wanted to stock in Colorado. By 1975, Fish and Game introduced Mysis shrimp into 53 different lakes and reservoirs in Colorado. Today, only a handful of those lakes still have thriving populations of Mysis shrimp. Not much is known as to why some reservoirs support the population and some don't, but some theorize it has to do with the depth and the overall mass of the reservoir itself. For the handful of lakes that were suitable to sustain a thriving mysis population, it turned out that the kokanee salmon didn't eat them as their primary diet. This was because the feeding cycle of the kokanee was opposite of the feeding cycle of the Mysis shrimp. The mysis would hold in the deepest parts of the reservoir during the day and would only rise from the depths to feed on zooplankton and other organisms at night. And of the reservoirs that have thriving colonies of Mysis shrimp, they release their water through bottom-fed valve houses. When the reservoirs boost flows into the tailwater rivers, hundreds of Mysis shrimp are swept from the bottom of the reservoirs and flushed into the river system where hungry trout eagerly hold to gorge themselves on this helpless shrimp. The result of these feeding frenzies produced some of the largest and most vibrantly colored river trout in the state of Colorado.
These fish are ridiculous. Yeah. God dang, man, these fish do not quit. That's crazy.
Over the years, I've had only sporadic success using Mysis shrimp. Most of the bigger trout I've caught on these tailwaters have been on traditional mayfly and midge patterns.
Nope, auto. Nice. Oh, shit, that's a good fish. Oh, god dang. That is a really good fish, actually. All right, I'm happy with that. Whew.
One thing I've noticed over the last couple years in particular is that the majority of the Mysis patterns sold on the market represent living Mysis shrimp. And of those patterns, they are usually tied in a size 14 to 18 size hook. They're typically pure white with some sort of flash tied into it and a heavy layer of epoxy or resin to give it an iridescent look. The problem is, I don't think I've ever seined the river and found living mysis. Not to say that mysis can't survive in the river for a short period of time after being flushed from the reservoir. I just don't believe that they can survive very long. My theory is that mysis are vulnerable to sunlight, which is why they inhabit the depths of the reservoirs and only feed at night. And I also believe that they are far too fragile to survive in the river's current for an extended period of time. And of the dead mysis that I find, they are usually very small in size, sizes 18 to 22, and they're not white, but have a cream, almost yellowish color to them. So I developed the corpse mysis to mimic these shrimp that I've seined from the river, and this pattern has produced very well for me. So I'm going to tie this in a size 18 just so you guys can see it. I prefer fishing it in a size 20 or 22. On either a Tiemco 200R, or in this case I'm using a Umpqua U203 style hook. For thread, I'll be using a UTC 70 denier in the color cream. Start by dressing the hook from the eye all the way down to just past the barb, and make sure that you leave a relatively long tag end that you thread in all the way to the back. Now you're going to take that tag end and you're going to loop it and just make a small loop back onto the hook shank and then secure it down with a few more thread wraps. Then snip the tag end and you can thread back up towards the eye, but give yourself a little bit of room for some workspace later on. Now just pull on that loop a little bit. We're going to trim out a small tail using the 2 threads of 70 denier thread. And then you want to just kind of rough it up with your finger and it's going to fray out real nice making a nice little tail. For the next step, you're going to need one strand of clear super hair secured at your tie-in point, and then tie all the way back to the tail. And then for bulk, we're going to run the thread all the way back up to that original tie-in point. Go ahead and snip that tag end. And now we're going to take that piece of super hair and we're going to rib the body. And this will give us just enough material to kind of capture some light and kind of give it that kind of iridescent look that a lot of guys are going for when they're putting epoxies and stuff on it. You don't need much, and really this ribbing will do a couple things. It's going to secure your thread and keep it from fraying, and it's going to capture that light in the water and attract the trout. And the corpse Mysis actually represents a female Mysis shrimp. So the next step, we're going to make the brood pouch, which is where the female keeps her fertilized eggs until they're ready to hatch. Okay, using super fine dubbing, I'm using the color Light Cahill here. We're just going to dub on a little ball that represents the brood pouch, just no different than if you were dubbing on a thorax on another fly. Okay, the next step, I'm going to tie in the legs. And to do that, I'm actually going to use a piece of white ostrich herl. Since this is a size 18, I'm going to use 2 strands of ostrich herl. If it's a size 20 all the way down to 24, I probably only use 1 strand of ostrich herl. But you're going to tie it in at the tip of the feather. And it makes it kind of easier if you just lick the ends. It kind of puts all those strands down for you and makes it a little easier to tie in. Now, snip the excess of the ostrich herl, and what I like to do is I like to twist the 2 pieces of ostrich herl together so that they kind of stay nice and tight. And now you're just going to make a few wraps and try to build up a little bulk representing the legs and, stray antennae or whatever's going on at the head of the Mysis shrimp. After making a few wraps with the ostrich herl, go ahead and secure it with a couple wraps and snip the excess. Now we're going to tame that mess of ostrich herl fibers by wetting our fingers, and we're just going to stroke the fibers back towards the brood sac and then use our thread to work our way up to the base of the brood sac, so it actually creates kind of a soft hackle around the brood sac, and it's not this big mess of ostrich herl fibers going everywhere. Now we're going to throw on a whip finish, and snip the thread, and we are done. And I know a lot of people are freaking out right now. You're like, where are the eyeballs? Where are the eyeballs? I'm here to tell you the eyeballs don't matter. I used to fish this thing with eyes. Eyes take a long time to tie in, and I have seen no difference in the amount of fish that I'm catching with eyeballs and without eyeballs. I just decided to stop tying in eyeballs. It was one extra step that wasn't making any difference anyway. So the Corpus Mysis has no eyeballs. So there you go. So that's how you tie the Corpus Mysis. I appreciate you watching the video. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next one.